I took a look at a lot of Bama depth guys this offseason. Guys not listed on the depth chart as starters, but you could tell they'd be pretty important if somebody either underperformed or got injured ahead of them. And Yhonzae Pierre, I turned on the high school film, not only one of the most physical football players I've ever seen, one of the most violent football players I've ever seen. If you're a fan of defensive football or just physical football in general, please go check out his senior season on Huddle at Eufaula. A lot of fun to watch. Just make sure your nephew's not in the room when you watch it, because viewer discretion is advised. Anyways, Yhonzae Pierre's done a great job stepping up for an injured LT Overton. Yhonzae Pierre, the first game that he really broke out was last week against Missouri. I think he had something like 2 forced fumbles, but we're going to start talking about this guy on the national stage when he has 3 sacks in an SEC game against Tennessee. He just played so well. So we're going to take a look at what he's been doing. In high school, he was listed as an edge rusher on 24/7. He's more of a linebacker that just so happens to be a really good pass rusher. So we're going to see that. We're going to talk about the explosiveness with him. The first step's really good. Not just the first step, the second and the third step. I really want to highlight the flexibility and the bend that Yhonzae Pierre has, because it kind of allows him to get after the quarterback in many different ways. The way he's not only able to turn the corner, but able to just kind of flash to the inside. We're going to see that throughout this tape, the stunts that they run with him. He's just a flexible, has that elite level bend. We're going to talk about both explosiveness and then the bend on this. Not the first step, but the second and the third step. At 6'2.5", we're not going to be talking about that long first step that we talk about with some of the top pass rushers in the country. We're going to be talking about the second and the third step here. The way he's able to just kind of flash inside like this, and then the flexibility to kind of turn inside. Really, really like the flexibility, the bend that he has. He's got the traits that you look for in a high-level pass rusher, that's for sure. But we're going to see him do more than just get after the quarterback throughout the course of this highlight tape. I really like the speed to power on this one also. We're going to see that a lot against number 72. Don't know his name. And then the true freshman, David Sanders Jr. The speed to power looks really good on the right tackles in this Tennessee game, but we're going to see him go against Hurd, the left tackle. It's just not quite there yet. Hurd's played a lot of college football. You can see that this dude's been in the weight room for 3-4 years at Tennessee. He's just not quite, Yhonzae Pierre's not quite there, speed to power yet, when we're going to be talking about him whenever he comes out to the NFL. Anyways, here's him in the pass dropping. Really like that we see the pass dropping. Cover 3, this is 1st and 10 here. And this is a very tough ask for a guy that also rushes the quarterback. It's kind of tough to get in your head, okay, now I have to get upfield, bust my ass to the quarterback. All of a sudden, I have to check run and then get into my pass drop. Look at the amount of yards that he carries right here. If you ask yourself, do you think this receiver at the bottom of the screen, if he runs a 10-yard curl, do you think he's going to be open? I'd say yeah, but look at the amount of space that Yhonzae Pierre eats up right here, and then has the hip fluidity to just kind of sit down on that. And you take a look at Joey Aguilar, a lot of times we'll show guys getting into their pass drops and the quarterback just never looks at them. This play was designed, the second read here is that curl route, and Yhonzae Pierre was right there. So that was a really good job in pass dropping. Something that I didn't really see on the high school film, so it's nice to see that show up in college football. Not only a pass rusher, not only a pass dropper. Look at the way that he reads the screen here. He doesn't read the screen in the sense where he's like redirecting right away, but he's full on pass rush here. Flashes to the inside on this stunt and then gets his head around, has the athleticism to redirect and finds the football right away. Look at the way that he just kind of locates where the football is. And this isn't a screen in the strict sense where, 72, the right tackle as well, David Sanders, they're not like letting him go. This is a screen to the other side. This is a good job by him just kind of redirecting, right? And this is the speed to power against Hurd. Like I said, it's just not 100% yet, but we saw it really good against the right tackles. So just the clip I wanted to include. Here it is on David Sanders again, a guy that has not played a lot of college football. It's a good job just kind of taking advantage of that speed to power, that low leverage that he has at. He's listed at 6'2.5" coming out of high school. I think he's a bit closer to 6'3" now. The motor that Yhonzae Pierre has as well. We saw that on the high school film. Even now playing for Alabama, everything's just 100%. And we see how fast he is to the outside shoulder now. If you're an offensive tackle, you not only have to worry about getting beat to your outside shoulder, you have to protect that inside shoulder as well, because Yhonzae Pierre has that flexibility to just flash inside like this. Here's him pass dropping again. This time he didn't get quite enough depth on the drop here. It's very difficult. Like I said before, the curl to flat's a difficult drop because you're not only responsible for this, kind of have to guard that flat as well. And seeing this, it's easy for me to say when we're going in half speed and stopping, but if this running back, you have nobody coming into the flat here. think he just had to get a little more depth. Anyways, he's a great pass rusher. He's a good pass dropper as well, so I'm not really trying to say anything. Anyways, how is he against the run? I think this is a really good job holding his own here. A lot of times these kind of like swing guys that on the obvious rundowns, on the obvious pass downs you want getting after the quarterback, then maybe in a bit more off-ball capacity when the offense is in an obvious running down. This is a really good job setting the edge here. It wasn't to his side, but I thought he did a good job holding his own in the run game as well, which is something that you wouldn't always talk about these smaller linebackers doing a good job at 6'2.5". And then here's the explosiveness upfield. Before we saw how the left tackle had to protect his outside shoulder because Yhonzae Pierre can beat you to the outside like this. This is pretty lucky that number 9 was there to chip him, but I think he would have got to Aguilar if he wasn't there. At least affected the play more. Yeah, he not only had 3 sacks, he had 3 almost sacks as well. So just a great overall performance from Yhonzae Pierre, stepping up, like I said, for an injured LT Overton. They definitely got depth. You guys let me know what you think about Yhonzae Pierre. If you want a place to store all your draft evaluations or look at other Alabama people, and Ty Simpson's a guy that has a couple evaluations up on here, please check out we-draft.com. Thanks for watching.